Yeah, talk about awkward scenes.
വന്ന് നിനക്കിപ്പം പട്ടേലരുടെ സെന്റിന്റെ മണവാ. എനിക്കിഷ്ടമായി ഈ മണം. എന്നാലും ഓമന എന്റേത് മാത്രമാ. ഒരു ദിവസം നിനക്ക് ഞാൻ ഈ സെന്റ് വാങ്ങിച്ചു തരും.
തൊമ്മി, നീ ഇറങ്ങി വാ. ഞങ്ങൾ നിന്നോടൊരു കാര്യം ചോദിക്കാൻ വന്നതാ. കുട്ടപ്പറയും തനിയൊക്കെയാ. എന്നെ ഇവര് കൊന്ന നീ ആത്മഹത്യ ചെയ്തോ? പട്ടേലരെ അവര് കൊന്നെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. നീ പേടിക്കരുത്. നമുക്ക് പട്ടേലരെ കൊല്ലണം. അതിനെന്താ ഒരു വഴി?
യജമാനെ കൊല്ലാനോ? അയ്യോ, പിന്നെ എനിക്ക് ആരുണ്ട്?
എടാ, പട്ടേലർ കൊണ്ട് എല്ലാവർക്കും സൈക്കിട്ടു. പെണ്ണുങ്ങൾക്ക് വഴി നടക്കാൻ വയ്യാതായി.
നിനക്ക് പട്ടേലരെ കൊണ്ട് ഗുണമുണ്ട്, എനിക്കറിയാം. എന്നാലും നീ ഒരു നന്മയുള്ളവനാ, പാവമാ. നീ ഞങ്ങളെ സഹായിച്ചാൽ നിന്നെ ഞങ്ങൾ സഹായിക്കും.
നിനക്ക് ഞങ്ങൾ 100 രൂപ തരാം.
പഞ്ചായത്ത് ആഫീസിൽ പ്യൂണിന്റെ പണിയും ശരിയാക്കാം.
നീ എന്താ ഒന്നും പറയാത്തത്? എല്ലാ കൊണ്ടും നിനക്ക് നല്ലതിതാ.
എന്ത് സഹായം വേണം യൂസഫിച്ച?
എടാ, പട്ടേലരെ എളുപ്പത്തിൽ കൊല്ലാൻ വിഷമമാണ്, നിനക്കറിയാമല്ലോ. നീ വൈകുന്നേരം പട്ടേലരെ ഈ വരാന്തയിൽ ഇരുത്തി തന്നാ മതി. ഞങ്ങൾ ഒളിവടി വെച്ചോളാം.
കൂടെ നിൽക്കുമ്പോ എനിക്കിട്ട് വെടി കൊണ്ടാലോ?
പട്ടേലരുടെ വെടി പോലല്ലടാ ഞങ്ങളെ വെടി.
With that, no context at all. There's just a guy coughing insanely.
He's trying to kill himself just from laughing, man. Like, oh my god. I want to ask you. I actually want to ask you before in the previous scene, man. Like, what did you think about this? Like, this movie obviously has a lot of long withdrawn, like drawn out shots, man. Like, you can almost watch it at like 2 times speed. And it feels like, but what do you think about that, man? The consistent use of that, because it's almost prevalent throughout the entire movie. It's there from the start to the end.
I think there are times when it's used really well and other times where not a lot happens. And so I feel like it didn't need to be drawn out in the same way. Like there's this scene that happens, and I don't know if it's before this or after this, where he and Patel go like fishing with the fish, or like they throw dynamite in there, and nothing happens like the whole time. And you like wonder what was the purpose of that entire excursion. And like long trains of scenes where they're going out hunting or something and there's nothing caught. But I think there are also times when the silence is used really effectively to build up tension, right? When people are walking slowly towards Patel and you don't know what he's going to do. And I think this is kind of in that category of, Tommy thinks that they might have already killed his master and are there to kill him. There's a bit of tension as to how he'll respond to the proposition to help him kill Patel. I think this is a scene where it's kind of works for me, but there are a couple of scenes where it's maybe like not as necessary.
Yeah, definitely. I think the drawn-out scenes, I don't know if they're meant to emphasize the fact that, just life moves really slowly in this area of the world.
Yeah.
Like, I guess, like,
fair.
I don't think people literally walk this slowly, but I mean, like just like things don't move that fast. Like things are just like, you're kind of stuck in sort of the world. And it just sort of helps to emphasize like how badly, I guess, I would want to say it's a bad situation for Tommy, but it, from his perspective, it's not. Like he's kind of living his dream life in some ways, I guess, getting what he wants.
That's absolutely right, because he gets kind of protection. He's allowed to stay in his land. He doesn't know where he'd go after that, and he's therefore willing to deal with all the humiliations that come with being so servile to this master of his. And that includes whether it's regularly getting beaten up, shot and left for dead, or his wife being consistently, essentially used, raped essentially by the Patel character. He's willing to stand all of that because he thinks he stands to gain something from this arrangement because he has nowhere else to go. And being associated with Patel means he's got a degree of protection that people won't touch him. So it's an interesting dynamic. But then there's also other things that you're just like, but is there something even more than that? When he tells his wife he likes the smell of her smelling like Patel, and you're like, so how do you feel about this man? Do you actually hate him? Because now you've agreed to kill him, but as soon as he gets shot, you go and save his life. So there's like weird things that are inexplicable to me there that goes beyond just a pure master-servant relationship, or shows that relationship is far more
definitely.
complex.
No, it's definitely a complicated one. And we sort of see it evolve and change over time. But yeah, that whole thing with the wife, I didn't really understand. Like, I didn't quite understand why she was so on board with this as well. But I guess, I don't know, is that another dynamic within their relationship where he is actually like the master of that relationship in some way, and what he says goes? So it's just another layer of that master-slave relationship. It's just sort of gone down. Like, I'm the master of this household and he's the master of me, so therefore he owns you, And
yes, I think there is 100% that.
Just the weird line, it's a fascinating line, because he says something like like I love the scent that he had, like you smell like him, and I don't think it's rape at that point, because they've just given into it. Like she's like, yes, come in, like do whatever you have to, But
it's true. It is just accepting that this is the way life is.
Like he says, I'll buy you this scent one day. So he still wants to be free of him, and then have access to that himself. Like that. It's just
It's very, and that's the part of the dynamic that never has kind of crystallized. I don't understand it, and maybe we never can, because none of us have been in that kind of understand that space. But when that first happens at the very start of the film, when she does get raped, he says, "I'm going to kill him." And then, 2 scenes later, he gives some saris for her. And, Tommy's so joyful. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm so grateful for this. And now I'm going to be part of your crew. I'm grateful for that as well." But then, he's again signing up to kill Patel. And yet still saying things like he really adores him in a way. It doesn't quite sync for me all the time. But maybe that's just the nature of the complexity of that relationship, which we can't really fully.
No, I think there's sort of there's depth and layers to this sort of, which we just it's very hard to understand the sort of psychological, I guess it's the psychological warfare that Tommy sort of has to go through to get to where he is.
Yes.
Because it's,
that's right.
It really changes.
I mean, there were times, it really changes. There were times in this movie where I felt annoyed at Tommy for not doing more or being so servile. I was just like, I don't even know if I like you right now, because you're just taking all of this lying down. Like, you can be a servant, but you don't need to actually convince yourself that this is a good man, or that what he's doing is a good thing, or that, you like certain things about him. It could just purely be that domination relationship. But he often strays into smiling and like, accepting certain things that don't necessarily have to be the way they are, which, is frustrating, but again, just goes to the layers in this relationship.
No, it's a complicated one for sure. And it's because in this scene there's a sense of like, again, internal conflict he has himself, because he says that line again, like, what will I have if the master's not there? So his life is, he's given his life completely to the master. Like he has nothing else anymore. To himself.
Yes.
His life is linked. Basically over. But he doesn't really ever stand up to himself or want anything more. But I think it's just something about, I don't know if Stockholm syndrome's the right word, but like it's something.
Oh yeah, it is. Like
it
kind of
is.
Just
like he's fallen in love with his captor, I guess, and then he's basically like, now this is my life, and how quickly that transforms, and how he's unable to break himself out of it. Because I think that's a concept of Stockholm syndrome as well. Like once you're in it, you can't really get out. Like it's very hard for you to get yourself out of it. And I guess at this point, when he's given, I think he's given like new clothes for himself. He's given a sari for his wife. And then he has like different roles for him. Like he's a bartender, he's a massager, like he's got all these different roles, He's almost got like a higher status in society, I guess, which I guess he would have never dreamed of, I guess, being where he's from and who he is. But it's fascinating, man. I haven't seen anything like this. Yeah.
No, I don't think you've ever seen a relationship like this in cinema, and that's why it's just so transfixing.
On to the next one, man. I think this is a pretty short one, but I want to include it.
മതി
ഉണ്ട്
One of the few scenes with music in it.
And even just like noticing there's like bars behind them, almost like a prison type of environment.
കണ്ടിട്ട് ഒരുപാട് നാളായ പോലെ.
അടുത്ത മാസം 15 വരും.
Yeah, I just want to include that quick one there because I just wanted to sort of, that relationship itself, and like it's interesting again. Like that's a great pickup, man. I never noticed the bars in the background, and that's just sort of more just sort of symbolism, that's there in the movie.
Yeah, that's right. Like a lot of thought has gone into these, and as you're saying, you kind of need to pay attention because there might be more being said than what's actually being said.
And I mean, the relationship itself, I mean, this is, again, I don't know if this was intentional, but this is like one of the few scenes where they're both at like eye level, but we're looking at them. Like we're not looking down or up on anybody, and they're both looking on the same level.
Good point.
So again, I've this great use of the camera, which is something I've not seen this aspect of sort of different camera angles used so effectively to portray different sort of I guess, dynamics, which this movie's done a fantastic job of. So cinematography, top notch.
And it's great because that's a good observation that they're both at the same level, because in their status in Patel's world, they are kind of the same person. They're both slaves to his whims, right? And no one's above each other in that relationship because they're both trapped in this world that Patel has created and essentially live their lives responding to whatever he does rather than really having too much agency. Although Saroja does have a little bit, she's trapped because her son is there. Like her son is the thing that she lives for most, and she can't leave. And so in a way she's trapped as well, even though she has maybe a bit more agency in her actions than everyone else around Patel.
No, it's very true, man. It's and I don't know, to me it felt like, because it is one of the few scenes with music in there, so like in a movie like this where music is used so seldomly, you sort of have to sort of pay attention to it, feels like. So I don't know if this was implying that these two were kind of like something was going on like beyond like a friendship or something like that, because she looks at him so affectionately, like it's almost like she's like falling in love with him or something like that, or like she has somebody to have comfort in or something like that, because she's even like she's offering him more food, making him stay longer, wanting to spend time with him. I guess just treating him like someone that she's never had in her life before, like
a human being.
So I guess from her point of view, like her relationship, and we don't get to know the history behind their relationship too much either, but it seems like she's devoid of having anyone outside of her level I guess, in her kind of position.
Yeah.
Because obviously she can't talk to her husband in any capacity. That's not like a master slave thing.
No.
So she has somebody she can actually talk to now, in a meaningful way.
Yes.
And she asserts herself like that and just gets joy out of it. So impressive, man.
I think that's it. I think it is like there might be something romantic there, but I see it also as just an underlying friendship or two people who are kind of in a similar position and only they can really understand what it's like. And so you see that kind of bond forming. And, like you see it everywhere, like, grief brings people together or trauma brings people together kind of thing. And I think that might be part of what's going on here, that both their roles are so unique that there's no one else who can really appreciate what they're going through except each other. And so that affection does really exist between the two of them, I think. And, she saves his life. She comes around to look after him. And even his wife, Omena, like she reveres Saroja as well. Like she treats her like a mother or like an older sister or something as well. So there is that affection there too. Yeah, man.
It was really fascinating. Well, the movie doesn't have too many characters. I think the characters it does have, just they flesh them out like so well. It feels like without even that much dialogue. Like even you can have a whole a whole story about Omena who barely has any lines in this movie. But it has such an interesting, I guess, place in this world. So fascinating, man. Very deep layered movie. Like it's got a lot to it, man.
They can unpack this for, I think, hours if you wanted, like how all the dynamics work here. And that's what makes it so enjoyable, I think.
Continue on. So this is after he's killed her.
നമുക്ക് കുടക്കന് കിടക്കാം അവിടെ എൻ്റെ അനന്തരവൻ്റെ വീട്ടിലൊടുക്കാം
So they're side by side now.
ഇവന് തിരിച്ചു വരുന്നത് വരെ ചെലവൻ എതിർക്കട്ടെ.
This is where the silence works really well, I think.
Yeah. This is everyone just trying to understand what this all means for them.
Heartbreaking, man.
And another scene where they just let the crying happen and they don't kind of cut it off or anything. And this is really interesting, this change in Patel's character.
Such an interesting... You can make so much out of that scene, this framing right here.
Even now, he's just so subservient to his master, and his master seemingly lost everything.
Yeah, man, it's a fascinating scene. Like, the thing that I think that I really am sort of interested about this scene is basically like because it does sort of explore two things of Mammootty's Patel's sort of character, basically in that how isolated he kind of is, because I think the central there's a lot of scenes that happen, one at his house and one at Tommy's house. And they're kind of opposites in the most extreme ways. Like his house is big and lavish and, it's got a big front courtyard and it's got, guests coming in, but he doesn't care about anybody at all. Whereas in Tommy's house, it's a house of love, despite whatever he's there for, which is almost just like, it's almost just performing just like a duty. It's not even like, because Amina feels nothing for him. Like, like she's like, he's going, fine, whatever, even though he's, consistently plowing her. It means nothing. Like it's just completely transactional to her at all. So there's no emotion involved in that at all.
Yes.
And she is just devastated by the fact that, her husband is having to do this, but yet also subservient the same way he is to Patel. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Housing him and doing all of that. Yeah. I think it's also, at this point, Patel has lost so much. Like, there are now people who are trying to kill him and everything. He's killed his wife. And maybe he realizes that, Tommy is the only person he has in his life who will actually look after him. And so you see the dynamic kind of change, because he gives money to Omana for when Tommy's going to leave, which I don't feel like he would have done at the start of the movie. Like, he doesn't even care Tommy's going to die towards the half or midway point of this movie. And so you already see that changing. And he allows Tommy and Omana to have a moment there, because maybe he knows what it means to lose a partner or to take someone, because he's just lost his wife and he's never the same after that. So maybe you're starting to see a bit more of his human side, and maybe an appreciation for kind of the cruelty he has, visited upon these innocent people. And maybe there's the start of some degree of regret here. And as part of that, there is a changing in the relationship between Tommy and Patel, I think, where it's not quite equals, but it's not kind of master slave in the same way, where Tommy's life means absolutely nothing to him.
Not at all. It's like, I guess maybe at least in the movie, it's the first time he gets to see intimately as to how much of an impact, I guess, he's made on other people's lives, and I guess how much devastation he's caused them, because he himself has now lost a partner. So he's going around killing people left, right, and center. So I don't know if he can sort of now start to empathize with the fact that because there's even that guy that just there's a scene where like he's at the toddy shop and he's drunk, and some rich man comes and he just kills him on the spot, and then Tommy's kind of like, why would you kill someone you don't even know? And he does it without even thinking twice. So I don't know. I don't know if he starts to think now. Okay, wow, this is I don't know if he starts to catch up with him now, and he's starting to see. Like, I guess he's actually being impacted by what he's actually done. Whereas at the start we just see him. We saw the first scene where he's like, disregard for life. Like, human life is basically nothing to me. Like, I can kill it, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating, man.
It's brutal, but also just shows the terrific acting of Mammootty, because you can't really read his face. There's stuff going on in his mind, but you're like, what exactly is he thinking as he's watching Omana and Tommy hug? Like, he looks like he's a bit sad and remorseful, but it's still a little bit indecipherable. And I think that goes to a lot of this movie, where I think relationships are fleshed out, but you never get the full picture. A lot of it is left for you to think about and understand yourself, which is always, I think, like, leaves you something to think about and leaves an imprint in your mind, rather than give you all the answers, which I really appreciate. Man. It's there's just so much to unpack again in this scene, but just terrifically done once again. It just explores this like this concept in such a deep way. The journeys that each of these characters sort of go on through this movie is true. It's just something to behold, to really, if you want to watch a movie that talks about characters and about sort of how they sort of transition through different phases of life, I think this movie does a great job of taking a very unique relationship and just fleshing that out, to different levels. So it's fascinating. It's just really is. But absolutely, just you can't help but keep watching.
No, definitely, man. It's one that you just gripped on it again. It's as you sort of mentioned at the start, it is extremely engaging. It's definitely not one that I got bored by, despite the the amount of time it takes. But in this case, as I sort of mentioned, it really works well. The silence does, to really highlight.
That's right.
And they're just sort of processing in their minds, it feels like, especially with Tommy and Omana, as to what's actually overcome them. Like, what is this going to mean for us? And it's just devastation.
Right. And there's no like discernible. That's right. It is so focused on this relationship. There is no plot, as I was kind of saying. Like, things just happen, but it's not going towards some bigger goal or overarching thing. Like, there is a degree of plot element here because he starts to go on the run now and he has to go and see who will house him, and then they go into the forest and all of that. But for the most part, it's just Patel doing things and you see the consequences of those things, and it's really more about that character study.
Correct. Yeah, man. We'll finish up with the final scene.
Yeah.
This is where it's all changed.
Yeah. Still has his faithful gun with him.
Yeah, man.
I love letting the silence linger.
Definitely. And to just see him sitting down on the ground, like, you know, contrast that to the first scene on the throne, right?
This is on the throne. Yeah, excellent point.
With no shirt on. He's...
No shirt on, yes.
And now Tommy's wearing a shirt.
And eating from... That's right. And they're both eating from the same plate.
Sharing a meal.
The same banana leaf.
So much told without telling us anything. That's beautiful part about this movie. This is why I don't like exposition, because it can be done in different ways, like this.
That's true. When you've got caliber of actors like this, just let them do their job, let them do their work.
യജമാനരെ അങ്ങയുടെ സെന്റിന്റെ മണം.
This is a big moment here.
I remember this.
Tommy.
യജമാനൻ എന്നെ പേര് വിളിച്ചു.
സരോജ അറിഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ടാവില്ല അല്ലേ?
ഇല്ല യജമാനരെ, ഇല്ല.
Wow, man. What a complete 180. That this is just rewatching it all, a complete just 180, man. Like in this case now, he is depending on Tommy to answer a question for him, and Tommy's comforting him.
That's right, telling him what he wants to hear.
Like the master-slave relationship is almost flipped 180 at this point. Like he is so beaten down. And he even physically, I forgot to even mention the last scene. Like he even has like he's beaten down, like literally he's like scars on his face. Like he's You know? So it's showing not just his his internal deterioration is actually showing externally as well, which is a fantastic piece of cinema to just sort of show that internally and externally. But I mean,
and those wounds haven't healed. He continues to have those throughout their journey in the forest. I think it's so well done, and it just shows, I think, that Saroja Patel relationship obviously means so much to him. Like he would take life without thinking twice, as you were saying, right? And yet he's so hung up on this point that did Saroja know that he was the one who killed her? Like, why does it matter to him if he didn't care about her? If he didn't want her to think that it was him, he wanted her to think it was an accident or some other random event, because in his mind he didn't want to hurt her like that. He wanted to get rid of her for his own purposes, but he didn't necessarily want to hurt her as a person, which is very interesting. And that's the start of his mental decline, because that's not the first time he asks Tommy about, do you think she'll recognize my hands? He asks her a couple of times, and he can't.
Yeah. He even has a scene where he asks him to hold his hand and tell him, like, is this? Did you recognize me by the touch?
Yes.
And it's such an interesting concept as well to just explore that in itself. Like, what does it actually mean to like what does death mean? Like, does it actually mean anything if you know somebody killed you? Will that actually affect you or not? Because he has this big, like, there's a bit of a, again, he's not the most consistent with his thoughts, because he has this thing where he says something to Tommy around about the point, like, when I think it's that scene with the dynamite and the fishes, and he says something, Tommy's like, what will happen to me if I die? And he says, like, I was taking care of your wife anyway, which he finds out afterwards he's not, like, she doesn't care for him like that. So it also hits him there as well. But in terms of, he says something along the lines like, if, when you're dead, you're not going to know anyway, so what do you care? Like, what does it matter? But he doesn't apply the same logic to Saroja, his wife. She's not going to know if she's dead. True. She's not going to know if you killed them or not. She's not going to care because she can't care anymore. Like, she doesn't have that. She doesn't have feelings, So
that's it.
It's more affecting him than her. Like, he doesn't want to admit the fact that it's actually going to impact him more, and he's going to have to live with that guilt, that she is going to know that he was responsible for her death by killing him, and he just can't get over that.
Yes. It's true. And it just goes to show that I think the Patel character is shown as pretty one-dimensional for the first half of the film, but you start to see layers and the tidbits of information, whether it's the priest or whoever says he used to be an innocent man. And then, everything that happens with Saroja, there are dimensions to him that, we get to see a little bit of. It's never fully explained because he never says what he's saying in his own thoughts other than, this Saroja, no, it was me. So you never hear it from him, but you can just see the remorse and guilt in his face and the fact that he can't move beyond it. The one other thing I would say, man, is just it's so interesting that Tommy is still kind of subservient to him at this point. There's no reason that Tommy had to go with him to the forest. Patel has now lost all of his authority in this town. And he doesn't need to follow him there. And he doesn't need to comfort his master and say, no, she won't know that it was your hand. He still gives him, and he's still so happy when he calls him Tommy for the first time and not, calling him an SOB or whatever it is. So again, that relationship is not purely just, master and servant. There's something else there, maybe a genuine friendship or a care for one another that is interesting.
That's true. I think it's definitely evolved to that.
It's one of the things I can't quite close my hands on. I don't know exactly what that is, but that's what makes this film compelling, because it's unlike any relationship that we've
that's a great point.
Before.
It does definitely does evolve into something else as we go through it. But it's just, I mean, I loved how this just closed everything out, basically. Like, it basically, I mean, just fascinating to see the costume changes and sort of, the different changes of angles and the fact that he's sharing a plate with him now. I think, he looks like, even again, Mammootty's brilliant performance, like, just, you can see, like, the demeanor he has is completely different. Like, we saw him kick a man to death, like, without thinking twice early on, and now we sort of see him here where he's like almost like lost and confused as to who he is anymore. He's lost his place in society. He's lost his identity, it feels like. He's lost basically everyone around him. He has nothing left. He even goes to his cousins, or he goes to his nephew or something like that, and he tells them that, no, you can't stay here. Like, they're going to chase you down.
We'll give you some money, but you can't stay here. Yeah, that's right. We'll give you some supplies. That's right. He has nothing anymore.
Anything. Like, he's just basically, a man without anything left except for Tommy. And it's fascinating that he's still sort of following him around and doing this. And I think it is just to do with the fact that I think there is a genuine, like, friendship that sort of evolved into it, because, like, even though, like, Patel would never sort of admit that or, want to show that kind of thing, but there's genuine care because, like, he gives his wife, like, money and stuff like that, right? He's like, hey, I want to support you, as we said before.
Yeah, true.
So he's like, I'm sort of happy that you're sticking around and staying by me, because his entourage leaves him. They're not there anymore. It's just Tommy. So he's obviously done something to this guy, like, psychologically, to just, I guess, capture him. And I guess maybe it's a commentary on how that master slave thing never really leaves you, despite, you fall in love with, like, the captor and not the situation anymore, because he's broken out of the situation. Like, the things that attracted him towards Patel aren't there anymore, but he's still, because of where he is now in his life, he's depending on him so much that he's like, you are my life.
Yes. He can't conceive of a life outside of him, even though he talks about killing him and stuff, but he's until Patel essentially dies, there is no sense of liberation for him. And then he's kind of happy, I guess, because he kind of runs back home, and I think he's joyful. No, he is, but as long as Patel's alive, there's an extra pull there, because maybe there's a sense of gratitude that this is the first person who's shown him any sort of support. Like he gives saris, he gives money, he gives him protection, and maybe you're so grateful that you're willing to suffer all these humiliations.
Because obviously I think they would have had to escape from where they were. It seems like because I didn't understand the backstory, but he's essentially fled from Kerala to now. I think they mentioned because he says Omana, should we leave and go somewhere else? And then she says, no, we already tried doing that. We couldn't get there, so we stopped here. So they're obviously on the run or trying to find a better place to live. Maybe it's a wedding, or because there's something about him. He chose Omana because he wouldn't take a dowry or anything like that. So there's something like that. So again, playing on that master-slave relationship once again, maybe that's that she offered him something that no one else would. So she's subservient to him because of that.
True.
And the same way, the parallel between those two relationships is just fascinating. Yeah, again, a brilliant piece of filmmaking, man. But yeah, man, any sort of final thoughts before we sort of wrap up? I think we've sort of seen all the scenes and talked about this movie at length, man. We've really done a deep dive on this one. But
it's a fascinating film, man. There's the great relationships. There's a amazing performance by Mammootty yet again. This is worth a watch.
Yeah, 100%. This is definitely one that is pretty incredible. Thanks to everyone that recommended it to us. We've heard about this movie a lot and been waiting for the right time to watch it. So we've watched it now and we've been just thoroughly impressed by it. And, we hope that if you listen to this, you've enjoyed our conversation. We have really enjoyed this, and it's just something that still will sort of be in our minds because it's that kind of movie. It's so sort of deep and it's sort of philosophy and a psychology. I think it's just worthwhile having deep conversations about movies like this because, they just warrant it, I think. Like it's, credit to everyone that put this together, from the writing, obviously the original story, to the director, to Mammootty, to, M.R. Gopakumar and all the other actors that were involved in this. It's just fantastic, guys.
All amazing.
But like always, leave us some comments. Let us know what you thought about this movie when you watched it, what it means to you. This is obviously a movie made for cinephiles, and people that appreciate sort of the storytelling and writing in movies, as well as the cinematography, because they do some fascinating things in this one, which I'm really impressed by. But yeah, man, this was awesome again, Sunny. This is definitely one that we really enjoyed. And we'll catch you on the next one. See you, man. Bye.
Till next time, man. See ya.